Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is Brittany, your host, and we have two special guests today joining us to talk about mushrooms for dogs. So on the line, we have Dr. Rob and Joni. So thank you both so much for joining us. Will you both introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you for having us on today, Brittany. This is Doc Rob Silver, and I'm a licensed veterinarian of nearly 40 years practice experience. And I have a burning interest in the use of supplements to help improve the health of our pets. And mushrooms have an incredible role in doing that, in creating health in our pets. And so I'm working with a company called Real Mushrooms. This is Joni. It's a Canadian company, and they both cultivate as well as manufacture mushroom extracts, medicinal mushroom extracts for humans. And I've been working with them to develop a line for pets and for vets.
And my name is Joni Kamlet, and I'm a registered veterinary technician, which is the same as a veterinary nurse, and a certified canine rehabilitation practitioner, like a physical therapist for dogs. I've been involved in integrative veterinary medicine for over 20 years now, and I am obsessed with mushrooms. I've been working in the supplement industry, but I really feel like mushrooms are going to heal the planet, including humans and dogs. So I'm very happy to be working with Dr. Silver at Real Mushrooms as we launch this veterinary line.
So much of this is of interest to me. Obviously, I have an interest in dogs, as you guys know. My dogs do see integrative medicine practitioners. So they go to acupuncture. We do some of those herbs. And I'm really interested in the mushroom side of this because even as a human, I'm finding more and more benefits in mushrooms, whether it's like the mushroom coffees or just the different mushroom supplementations that give you energy or give you immunity. So if one of you could, or both of you, tell us a little bit more about Real Mushrooms as a company. Tell us about the brand and how it got started.
The founder of our company is one of the global innovators in medicinal mushroom cultivation. He's been doing this for about 40 years. And so for the last, this company, which is called Namex, is the parent company of Real Mushrooms, and they grow the mushrooms under USDA organic standards, and then they extract them so that the active ingredients in the mushrooms are more bioavailable. And about 7 years ago, they decided that as interest in mushroom extract for people grew, they decided to launch a company that sells these mushroom extracts for people. And they've been very, very successful over these last 7 years. Well, as a veterinarian, I've been in practice 40 years. I'm an integrative veterinarian. I've worked with other companies to help them develop of supplements that are effective for pet health. And so I went to them knowing that there's such a huge upflowing of public interest in mushrooms for people, for themselves, but also everyone wants to, convey the benefits that they receive themselves from supplements to their four-legged family members. So I went to them, suggesting that they have me formulate a line of products for pets. And so I am now Chief Veterinary Officer of Real Mushroom for Pets. And we've just launched our first kind of volley of products, which are pretty interesting, but we've got a lot more coming over time, and so we're just getting out there now. Joni and I just came back last 5 weeks. We've gone to 3 different conferences where Joni's spoken at one, I've spoken at a few. We've just been meeting the vets and meeting the techs and talking about mushrooms and just learning that there is a And just like Jody, everybody seems to be obsessed with mushrooms. So we feel like we're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I would agree with you. I think there's been kind of this insurgence of interest in mushrooms.
Yeah.
And it might be, I think it's a little bit of like the pandemic kind of bringing it out in us and us kind of saying, what else can we do for our bodies? And even more taking it further than that, what can we do naturally for our bodies to kind of help them? And then same thing for our pets. I think vets have seen an uptick in vet care and dog care with the pandemic, being around our pets more and really wanting more for them and striving for a lot more. And also just having our eyes open to what has traditionally been on the market might not exactly be what our dogs need. So I love that you guys are launching this new mushroom line. And along those lines, so this might be a loaded question and there might be 100 answers, but what kind of mushrooms can dogs consume or take? And I know it might be tricky because it can only be certain amounts or if they're grown a certain way, but just generally, what are those mushrooms that dogs can take or consume?
So actually it's a lot more simple than you would think, Brittany, because really the any mushroom that is safe for a human is safe for a dog or cat. Oh, so wow. Everything from the simple button mushroom, that you can buy at any grocery store, shiitake mushrooms, maitake mushrooms, lion's mane, cordyceps, all of the mushrooms that are safe for humans are safe for dogs and cats. And, to go back on what you were saying previously about this interest in mushrooms, I think a lot of it, in addition to the pandemic, Fantastic Fungi, this very exciting movie came out, that anyone could watch on Netflix. And also a book called The Forever Dog came out, written by Karen Becker and Rodney Habib, that pet parents were already getting very, very sophisticated in what they were looking for as far as taking care of their pets. And it was kind of like a perfect storm. And like Dr. Silver said, we're just really just in the right place right now for mushrooms. And, again, they're the mushrooms that you're taking yourself, if you're cooking with mushrooms, like oyster mushrooms, anything, and it's important that they be cooked, put them in your pet's bowl, or of course, supplement.
Okay. Yeah, that's great to know. I actually didn't know that my dogs could also eat mushrooms. I mean, I make them broccoli, asparagus, green beans. They only get the best of the best, of course, mixed in with their food.
Of course.
So, so kind of along those lines, what are the benefits of mushrooms for dogs? And I would assume that's also somewhat similar to the benefits for humans.
Exactly. In fact, we can look to, in fact, because there are so few objective scientific studies in our pets, we have to look at what has been learned about their effects in humans and then apply that to our animals. I'm looking forward to seeing more studies, being published, but right now it's just the beginning, of the interest in that. So to make it kind of simple, all mushrooms contain in their very fibrous cell wall, which is why Joni says that mushrooms need to be cooked first, because you need to break down that cell wall in order to, if you're ingesting them, to get the goodies that are inside. So every mushroom is in their cell wall this special type of polysaccharide called a beta-glucan. And beta-glucans there's a huge amount of research into the value of beta-glucans, and the value is that they turn on your immune system in ways that are very effective. If an individual has cancer, it can help the immune system be a little better in handling that cancer. In some cases, we actually see some patients go into remission, although I'm certainly not making a medical claim here. I'm just reporting, what we have observed. So every mushroom has that value. Even you mentioned earlier mushrooms for energy. The mushrooms that we use for energy also are really good for the immune system. They just have other elements in them which help to increase our ability to manage our energy. So in addition to these beta-glucans that all mushrooms have, they also have these other molecules that are very specific to each individual mushroom. So, we look at turkey tail, which has been thought of to be very good for immune system and for cancer and for viral diseases. It has, maybe different types of beta glucans, and then these other molecules that are called terpenes, and it has maybe 8 of those. And there's so many of these. This is one reason why it's so effective. Another thing like cordyceps, which is what we think of when we think of energy, it has it has the beta glucans, but it also has other molecules in it. A molecule like cordycepin, for instance, named after the mushroom, of course, which helps the body to better reduce and to regulate energy in the form of ATP. And I could go on, but I know I don't want to go on too long here for you. But each mushroom has these special molecules in it. Lion's mane, which is right now the most popular mushroom in the United States because it helps with stress, it helps with mentation, it helps with memory. It also seems to help with some forms of dementia. And we have dogs that get very old, they get canine, we call it canine cognitive dissonance. Lion's mane is something that can help all of us. It can, and that's one reason it's so popular. Well, lion's mane is a beta glucan, so it's really good for immune system, but it also has these other molecules, these diterpenes and triterpenes that go to the nervous system and the nervous system to work. Yeah, so that's why mushrooms have almost seem amazingly possible to have so many different applications. And I used to do a lot of, and I still do a lot of teaching about CBD and cannabis to veterinarians, and I'm always talking about all the many ways that cannabis applications. Well, mushrooms are just as huge in the number of applications, maybe even greater than what we find with cannabis.
So I didn't realize all of the functionalities of mushrooms. And, my next question, I was going to kind of ask you guys, what products were available? What are those particular products good for? But you kind of mentioned they could be good. They could be multifaceted. So you mentioned lion's mane, and that's kind of the big one I think about these days too. And so you mentioned stress and maybe even dementia. And as someone that has an older senior rescue, we're starting to see a little bit of that dementia. And, traditional medicine has not led me to find lion's mane. So that's interesting. So, looking kind of at the website, so I saw we've got particular mushrooms kind of just by themselves. And then it looks like we might have some kind of like formulations to help people who might be battling like an anxious dog or perhaps a dog that needs an immune boost. Can you tell us a couple of the products available and what they're good for? Maybe some of those top products that you guys have?
So, like I said, we're just getting started, and this company, cultivates and grows all these individual species of mushrooms. And so, the first task that I did was I took each of the mushrooms that we had, and instead of loading them into larger capsules like we have already available for people, put them into smaller capsules to be more adaptable to the smaller size of pets. Some mushrooms are very bland and tasty, like the lion's mane or like the cordyceps that we've mentioned. Some mushrooms could be problematic for a dog and especially problematic for a cat. So putting them into a capsule can be helpful because it protects, they don't get to taste the really bitterness that we can find in some of the mushrooms. So that's what we kind of got started with. We wanted to just get the individual mushrooms, and we have one mushroom that's a combination, one product that's a combination of very strong mushrooms. It's called Five Defenders. This is probably, this and lion's mane are probably our two most popular products. So we wanted to also put that into capsules for the pets. Not all pets are amenable to be administered to them. And with some of the more suitable capsules, you could open them up and mix them into food, like with the lion's mane or cordyceps, or maybe the Five Defenders, and so on. Before they go to the law. So the next step was to do these really tasty little treat-like chews. And so right now we have two sets of chews. And I've got a whole other set of products for the chews that I'm just getting started on as well. But the chews, we have, like you mentioned, you're very, very, very accurate. We have two types of chews. One uses the Five Defenders, those 5 very powerful mushrooms, in a chew along with herbs that have immune modulating, immune helpful properties. Blueberry with antioxidants, astragalus root and ashwagandha, which are Chinese herb and a Ayurvedic herb that are very good for immune system and very good for stress, and then olive leaf and Ferrola, which is like rose hips in terms of a natural source of vitamin C. So those are very good for for helping with the immune system of a pet, especially if they're not amenable to taking capsules. And then we call that the immune chews. And then the relax chews put reishi, which is they call it the mushroom of immortality, but it also has very calming properties. Zen masters will use it as a meditation aid. So I took the reishi combined with the lion's mane, and then I put some very calming nutraceuticals in there. Theanine, which is what makes green tea, it's zen, and tryptophan, which everybody knows as far as the gateway to serotonin, which is a very calming neurotransmitter. And then I've got some very calming herbs like valerian and lemon balm. And so all of these in combination, this is something I've been doing for 20 years in terms of learning how to do these things synergistically in just the right way. The combination is extremely relaxing, but not sedating. It doesn't turn them off. It just kind of relaxes them. They can be aroused and bark at the door when the prime guy comes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've also found that if you blend if you give these relaxed chews along with some CBD, then that gets to be much more calming. It's bordering on sedation, depending on how you dose it. So that's what we have right now. The next one I'm going to be making will be something for the pet parent to put on their pet's food every day. It'll have the antioxidants and just daily amounts of very healthful nutrients and mushrooms that pets will thrive on. And that may be missing if people aren't doing home preparing, but are doing commercial foods, which because of their manufacturing and the commercial nature aren't maybe as nutritious as something that's designed specifically.
Yeah. So all of that sounds great. I think that my rescues probably need some of the relax formula.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is very picky. But like you said, you've made it a little more palatable for the dogs. And so you get to disguise that in their food. And then even, that immune one, like even for my senior dogs, like that one would be probably really helpful. Sorry, go ahead, Joni.
Oh, well, I do. I did want to hop in and just go back to the dog, the rescue you were talking about that is showing signs of cognitive dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
I would really highly recommend doing the lion's mane. It's, people are reporting some pretty profound changes in their pets starting on the lion's mane, and it's important. And then when they stop the lion's mane, kind of go back to where they were before. So it's something that you want to do, once you start, it's best to do lifelong. And lion's mane also supports the gut. So it's, for an older dog that might be having some tummy problems as well, lion's mane is a really excellent product.
So this is a perfect segue into my next question because it relates to me and probably the listeners. So if someone wanted to get started by adding mushrooms to their dog's supplement regimen, where would you suggest that they start? And, would they review your website and kind of choose from there? And then if it was someone like myself that wanted to try lion's mane, do you guys have recommended amounts to give by weight, or how does it work? How do you suggest people kind of get started?
Well, if the animal has some specific complaint, then that might help direct which specific mushroom we might want to use to get started with. If it doesn't have a specific complaint, that's where our 5 defenders comes in, because it's kind of a shotgun approach. But as far as how much to give, it developed what I would call a dosing algorithm. In other words, I've taken studies that use beta glucans and I've been able to apply them so that we can better use these mushrooms in a way that is based on weight and is based on how serious their condition is. So we have a lot of very good educational materials on our website because we recognize that it can become confusing, to the pet owner, that there are so many different mushrooms. Oh, I just don't know which one to start with, So our website helps a lot. We also have some really cool things like in another week or two, Joni and I get to do this Facebook Live type of Q&A where we just take questions and we answer them, and, about mushrooms, about how to give them, about different conditions. And we're finding that we've been doing it for a couple of months now, and each one that we do seems to get busier. More people come on. It's a very educational opportunity for the pet parent and to learn more about mushrooms and fun with it as well, because I'm retired in practice. I miss that. Just, answering those questions that I get in the exam room. So for me, it's a lot of fun.
And it's the last Thursday every month at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So if you go on Facebook and you go to Real Mushrooms Facebook page, we're on there live, and you can ask us questions in real time.
And where else can people find you guys as far as social media and also the website?
www.realmushrooms.com. That's REAL mushrooms.com. We have on Facebook and Instagram. We're also very prominent there. We have a Real Mushrooms Insiders page, which is a kind of a private group. Once you either purchase something or open an account with us, you're invited to the Facebook Insiders page. We also have a Facebook for Pets page that's specifically for pet questions, comments, sharing your protocols, etc.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for all of this information. All of the listeners, please make sure you go and follow them on Facebook and on Instagram and check out that next Facebook Live event. So thank you again, Dr. Rob and Joni. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, Brittany, for giving us an opportunity to let people know how great mushrooms are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.